So my name is Oz, and I had a AI consulting startup for the last 6 years, and they had done multiple different projects for different industries, and I'm happy to moderate this panel today. We have different perspectives, and our topic is generative AI from the investing VC perspective, and to balance it, we also included some non-VCs that are raising. I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
My name is Luke Stapley. I am the marketing director at Cocos. I have been living in China for 13 years and worked in the game industry for about 10 years at different companies, Microsoft, Nintendo, PopCap, Game Hollywood, and recently Cocos right now.
How about now? Yeah. Yeah. Hi, I'm Berkin. I'm a founding partner at Revo Capital, a early stage investment fund operating out of Istanbul, investing in the broader region. And we invest in SaaS, fintech, and not gaming, unfortunately, but many other verticals. And we look at AI as a horizontal kind of play. And we are most known for our investment like Getir, which is a decacorn now. We were the first financial backer, Builder.ai, which recently turned unicorn, and quite a few like successful regional SaaS companies.
Hi, this is Basar from 212 VC. I'm responsible for investments mainly. We are one of the first VC funds in Turkey, started 11 years ago. We invest mostly, we are sector agnostic, investing mostly B2B software companies across Turkey, MENA, CE, and a few other regions. We invest up to 5 million euros to mostly companies with proven track record, proven traction, clear product market fit, and founders willing to scale internationally. We have 19 companies active right now. One of the most well-known are, I think, is Insider that just raised 100 million. And we are always keen to make new investments. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kristina. I'm managing partner of Gaming Activation. We're an ecosystem builder in Saudi Arabia. We're focused on investing, accelerating, and publishing games and gaming solutions. In general, used to be in tech, in Google and Facebook before. So some of you might know me because with some of the studios I worked before supporting the global launches, but on Facebook side, where majority, our main focus is around gaming, gamification, products and tools. We are genre agnostic, of course, genre agnostic, and we're looking into the basically geographically quite wide scope, so the whole world. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jure. I was here earlier today representing my company ZEBEDEE, which it says on there, but more relevant to this panel, recently got invited by a close friend to co-found an educational technology platform. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it, but only if we go super hard on AI. And this is very, very early stages of putting together a seed round, but we're fortunate to, have good connections in the investment world. So we have been gathering some sentiment from investors, especially as it pertains to, bringing an AI angle into this idea. And that's the perspective I hope to bring today.
Okay. So we can start by, I think, we don't have to go linearly every time. Like anybody can jump in, take the, let's make it like a conversation. So I would say who would like to start with their experience in maybe like a portfolio company in like in AI, and how it changed in the last, I would say last 6 months. Things are changing very fast. We'll probably ask one of the VCs.
I'll start if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the portfolio, as I said, like we look at AI as an enabler. So for the last 10 years. Closer. Yes. Okay. We looked at AI as an enabler in general. So we have many companies that used like the typical AI stack out there, and I think the first one that had an AI name in it was Builder.ai, which really is a app development kind of marketplace and platform where you can go, like an enterprise can go and shop for their like web page or mobile app. So it looks like an agency play, but it had like this like 2 layers of AI in the background, which effectively allocated modules to swim lanes across their developer partners, and another AI bot that was kind of taking the brief from you. I mean, if you look back, like 5-6 years ago, the talks with the founder Sachin, there's a lot of criticism about it being an AI or not, and but that was kind of our first exposure with a company with an AI name in it. But right now, I think with the boom, we'll be looking at companies and how they really implement the new wave of kind of the LLMs into their value proposition. The one that's maybe AI smelly, that's more recent, is Olang, which we recently invested in. They use dubbing and subtitling for content. I mean, they have this mission of making content universal for all content creators. So they work with like Netflix and YouTube and many international platforms. And they don't implement the AI themselves. They try to take the best of the breeds and bake it into their kind of translator marketplace, so you can start with AI translation and then get human in the loop later.
Add something?
You want to take?
Yeah, sure. We haven't invested in any Gen AI companies yet, but AI, as Berkin said, it's we have also started looking into the sector for the last 5 years or a few years now. With all the developments, many of our companies are building some AI-based features or implementing more also self-learning AI-based features or products. But I think maybe Insider and Chuch are the most can be counted AI-first companies. Insider, they have analysis, prediction, and recommendation engine, and Chuch, it's a visual AI company based in the US, founded by Turkish entrepreneurs. Basically, it's a computer vision that always training itself to identify objects in nanoseconds. And they have some pre-trained platform that can be used for some common industries, some common use cases to identify quality of the production, to identify workplace safety, also to be embedded into defense industry, which is the largest part of their operation. But nowadays, of course, we have started seeing lots of applications, especially with Gen AI, mostly marketing and around that. And probably, I mean, we'll discuss further, but probably we'll see more and more in the coming months and years.
My experience started quite early. So being on that side with Google and Facebook, I saw quite a lot when it comes to the AI and Gen AI in general. Talking about gaming, I would say that even back 2-3 years ago, some of my portfolio companies, they already had some in-house solutions for monetization optimization, for community management. But it was more in-house. So obviously now, when it's it's so much available broadly to the audience, I would say that all of the companies we focus on, either invested or we're focusing on looking at investing, all of them using the AI technologies for sure, through different processes. So one of our portfolio companies, for instance, what they do is that they do use for the concept creation, ideation, the external solutions. However, they build internal AI, which helps them to create the basically unlimited universes. So that's on the code side. So this is where we see kind of a great solution from operations perspective. Yes, it's not replacing the super talented artists and in general doesn't replace the strategy behind. However, it helps to create something which will take years of creating. So in general, as a fund and as a ecosystem builder, we're very excited about it. We're interested in, so any company which is either developing AI solutions or using the AI solution in order to improve the operations, that would be very interested to talk about it.
The only thing I invested in AI is my time.
We're talking to a couple of AI companies. We are working with Demos, which is a Chinese Chinese company, where their further goal is to be able to create 3D assets for developers. Right now, currently, they're doing 3D heads. So you tell them, I want a head that looks like some beautiful, like Leonardo DiCaprio, and they will go ahead and they'll be able to modularly create it, and so you can export it into your game and have somebody that looks very much like him, without having to do all of the all this kind of high-end work. And we're also working with another company called ZEBEDEE AI in Europe that is working on AI-generated real-time physics for particle systems, so smoke, water, and some other ones, so that we wouldn't have to do all the high-level kind of things with smoke or with or water flow that might take a lot of time or energy can be all done in real time. So I think what it's going to be doing for a lot of the for gamers that we're seeing now is it's pretty much kind of speeding up a lot of very mundane tasks or tasks that probably could have taken a long time and really shortening them up. And the thing that's really exciting for us is that, you know, this is just the beginning of it. We're finally starting to see, because ChatGPT, I think, started like 4 years ago, and now we're starting to see the fruition of the first generation. And so it's exciting to think about what's going to happen in the second, the third, and the fourth generation, and where this is going to go for a lot of people.
Yeah. Actually, you also have Chinese investments or companies?
Yeah, we're working with one Chinese company. China is having a little bit of a trouble because we weren't really prepared in China. They weren't really prepared for this kind of thing. So when ChatGPT came out in China, there was a huge rush. A lot of developers were wanting to try it out and see how well it was. And we saw like Midjourney was a very big tool. A lot of developers were very interested in Midjourney, especially for 2D game asset creation. And so we saw a lot of game art, because a lot of them have like some kind of image of a beautiful woman that they'll speak to. And so it was easier for us to do that instead of having to do that other things. And we've had a couple of companies fire like 10 or 20% of their workforce just to use AI now. And it's a little bit short-sighted, I think, but it's the big issue right now in China is that we're just, because of the regulations that America has placed on them, they're having a little bit of issue creating their own things. And so we're seeing a lot of other areas that are working on it, but China itself is not ready. We had Baidu created Ernie, and it was kind of a disaster because when they presented it, it was only a video instead of having any kind of opportunity for people to try it, compared to what they could do with ChatGPT, which you can ask it a question in Chinese and it will give back an answer in Chinese. So it's going to take a while for China to catch up with their AI. So we have a couple of really good AI companies, but compared to what's going on here in Europe and what's going on in America, it's not even close to the comparison.
I see. Thank you. And so, like looking at like major like TechCrunch, VentureBeat recently, I think most of the startups have AI in it. So, in your experience, like all different companies you have seen in the last couple of months after New Year, what percentages has the name AI or has AI as the major feature?
Okay, I can start. I mean, it's we have, especially starting from consumer products, we have seen the rapid adoption of AI and Gen AI. I think probably in the next 6 months or 12 months, probably we will see more AI applications or AI embedded applications or products compared to the last maybe 5 years. So it's developing very quickly.
Do you see companies that are applying to you that don't have AI?
So I think many companies are now trying to frame themselves. They edit some maybe AI component or some basic stuff and saying that we are an AI company. And as an investor, obviously, you need to be careful because whenever we have seen it with blockchain. I mean, everyone first tried to embed some NFT gaming and other kind of gaming Web3 elements, and now it's becoming AI. But I think this may probably last longer, and this is probably going to be a fundamental shift in everything we have seen. Because everyone can see that it is filling the inefficiencies, especially in consumer habits, and there are many use cases. And apart from that, of course, the adoption in enterprise sites, enterprise companies are getting gradually better and better every day. We have seen Microsoft, we have seen even Morgan Stanley doing stuff, some governments, Iceland, working with ChatGPT, and Salesforce, HubSpot, and a few others. There's a huge trend going, so I think it will. We are just in the beginning of the new era, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something definitely fundamental. I don't think it's a trend. It's not about the trend. It's about basically change the whole world changing with that. In gaming always was the most creative industry. So in terms of the naming, no, we don't see this with the startups we're working with. At least they don't call themselves whatever game AI. Even the solutions are not being called that way as well. However, when it comes to the technologies which are either like majority AI based, or they say that they are a new AI solution. Something which we'll look at it carefully is actually what is the data they train their basically models with. So is it the first party data? Where is this stored? So this is one of the biggest aspects, and the question marks is like to the legal aspect and to the aspect of who's going to store the data and generate the data, right? So and actually I would love to hear your guys' opinion on that aspect as well, because this is something which just comes along with this big change, and I would love to, maybe if somebody can comment on that.
That's kind of like part of my next question. It was like, how do you distinguish ones that will be successful? What, like, data is one thing, obviously she's looking at. Data and others, let's say.
I mean, if I can say as like a founder of startups, in an early stage scenario, if you're not already coming from a really good starting point, I think these are not questions you're in a position to worry about. I cannot worry about my data when I'm trying to build a product. I'm also not in a position to be building AI tools. Instead, what I'm looking to do is take the best what's on the market, combine it, make that happen, right? But it's a super good point, and something that scares me a little bit is like data is still king, and in the world of AI, data is even more king. But as a founder, I have no choice really but to give that up, at least at the seed stage, right? Maybe Series C level, we can start to think, how do we bring that in-house? For the time being, that's a sacrifice, right? The tools are relatively cheap, but they take all your data. You just have to give it to them.
Yeah, I think when we say AI startups, there's the ones that really build the foundational models, which are like a whole different category. And then there's the ones that you mentioned and invested, I think you too, like building technology for even other startups to use, other companies to use.
And I'm talking about...
And you are on the more like B2C, actually, the product itself.
B2B and B2C, but yeah, you could say like an end user product that leverages AI.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it is very different.
Yes.
But still, nevertheless, I'm building a platform for education, bring in creators. They will put their knowledge on that, right?
Yes.
And all of the AI tools will have access to all of that. I don't know how they're processing that. Like, I can read the terms, but I don't know. It's not transparent. But yeah, this is a sacrifice, I guess, in the startup world. Those of us hustling, we gave up that right for now.
Yeah, and we've seen with ChatGPT, it will sometimes make up fake things. And so, like, we've had a couple of the people who would do like their research papers, and then the research papers they had used ChatGPT, and they'll give out these weird books that never even existed for legal for some legal documents, and so that's going to be a big issue as well. It's just kind of making double checking and making things are correct, as well as the legal, like for example, a lot of questions about Midjourney and any of those kind of pictures that are put on Midjourney. Do you have a legal right to those pictures? I know in Japan they just released a recent thing. They were going to be doing anything that was not research or educational purposes. You couldn't copyright. You have to have a copyright for those kind of things, and so there's a legality behind it. So if yours looks like a Pokemon, you could get a nice cease and desist letter from Nintendo. So I know that Adobe is trying to fix that, because Adobe is using their own stock photos for theirs, compared to like Midjourney's kind of just soaking everything up. So I think that's going to be, for now, that's probably not going to be the big risk, but I think in the coming years it'll be a bigger risk when a lot of companies are kind of seeing, okay, AI is taking over, where do we stand legally when they take over our IP?
I think it's two great topics, actually.
Yeah, I mean, beyond the legal side, I think the main thing is where these models are now, right? So, like 20 years ago, I was a PhD student and we were playing with data. We had like machine learning models, and we had all these, and computing advances and data availability advances, and like every time, I remember like when Amazon came up with Alexa, we said like, okay, everything's going to have like a conversational interface now, and so every time you have a big model or a set of models come out, it makes it clear that it should be in there somewhere, in the interface, in how you present and process the information. But at the end, I think the big thing that happened is you had these, what do you call it, transformer models, and they happen to now feed it with the like behemoth of data, like in the case of like OpenAI, and they have the processing power. So now it's very meaningful, or it looks meaningful what they're saying. And the legal case, I think, is interesting, because now you have to think about, okay, after the shock of it, you have to think about the hallucinations. I think what's going to be next is, okay, OpenAI, the generic data set that it works with, I think the next batch that we're going to see is that same model, but trained with vertical or application-specific, like domain-specific data. When you do that, I think it's going to be very relevant. Because as you get more specific, just like a human being, then it's going to use those brains to learn more about the topic. So that's the next phase. I happened to be listening to this podcast. There's what's his name, like Dimitri Shapiro, I think, ex-Google guy building UAI.ai. So he's training effectively the OpenAI model with your own information. So he's trying to make that same bot more personal. So that's about you. And assuming the privacy is there, then that's interesting. But it doesn't have to be about you, but it can be about this like specific domain that you train ChatGPT with, then it becomes super relevant.
Yeah, actually, as you mentioned, it was a very good point. That, and in the audience we have, I know like some startups that are interested in like the VC perspective, because they'll do fundraising. As a founder, you are so busy that you don't follow all the regulations, and if you fit in them. And some of the regulations are changing, like the new ones, like Japan. Like nobody knows what the regulation will be in. Well, people have ideas, but until it's finalized, how do you look at it, and do you have any advice on the founders on, you build something with all the available tools, with all the available data quickly, as he said, because you want to go to market, you want to build. How should they deal with this uncertainty? Or how do you look at it? If somebody says, here, I built this, do you check all these? And
I mean, generally, when we look at this environment, I mean, I try to look at the value chain, where the company stands in that value chain, from hardware to applications in between. And when, for example, a company comes to me and they built an application I think there are mostly two things that we have seen. One, the companies that are using the general foundation models that build something, and two, using their proprietary data, they use something specific, like Jasper is one of the Harvey Jasper. They are the most famous ones, obviously. There's lots of noise at the moment. Everyone comes and everyone says, or many companies, startups say they do something, but I think in this environment, I would probably want to see more use cases, traction, and even this might lead into maybe milestone-based financing as well for investors. Unfortunately, even some of the large investors I know, they hear closer. Okay. Because of the risk appetite, they try to go in a little bit earlier. If, of course, it's not a foundation model or something that requires big funding. It's for investors. It's also difficult. Investors are being a little bit. Some of them, they don't want to rush. They want to see the use cases. They want to see and they want to understand if the team is enough. If the team has enough skill set to build some capabilities and. It's not easy, I should say. That there needs to be some, at least, probably solid use cases for most of the investors to see.
Yeah, I agree in terms of the skill sets. So the way we look at it is, so if we have a team and then we have the tools they use in order to create, let's say, a new product, the game we're talking about, right? For instance, if we remove the tool, would they create this game? They will, because the talent behind it, yes, might take longer. Yes, might take more to do the iterations and production and everything, but they will do it. Because at the end of the day, it takes this talent in order to understand and have the great sense of creating a product and game, for instance, which retains players, which hooks the players. So without yet, at least for now, there is no one-stop shop solution to create fully on AI-based game which would be working and would be possible to scale globally. So if we can remove the tool and the team is strong enough, so we have super founders there. So we believe that this is strong enough because it's an early stage fund, where a lot of startups, a lot of studios do use AI. Of course, there is a huge blend between their conceptual work and using the Midjourney and other tools as well, right? So with the startup I was mentioning before, the VR universe, if we remove the tool, we see the huge impact which is brought by the team and the founders. So that's at least how we look at it. Yes, in terms of the IP and the content generated, later on it might be a risk, and this is where we see that funds and accelerators and the startups should kind of work together as a whole ecosystem, because everyone under the risk, if something changes, we all need to be aware and we all need to communicate it we as a fund, to our portfolio studios and the studios to communicate as well. Because otherwise, we all going, if it affects everyone. So then there are some new technologies in terms of releasing, let's say, from the legal perspective, releasing the NFTs attached to the IPs. This is kind of diversifies a bit of the risk of who invests. It's early stage, but that's another story. Well, I'm not myself, I don't have a legal background, but it's super tricky. I agree. As funds to investing in the studios which use the generative AI, it's quite super tricky to see where's this border. Where's this line?
Yeah, just one small addition. Of course, now I think because everything is happening so fast, defensibility is more important for investors to see if the product and if the company has that at least barrier.
But from Kristina, what I understood is product is still key, and you need the team to actually build a great product. Yes. And the technology, you are saying, it's now generative AI, it can be more efficient. They need to know how to use the latest technology, but you still need a product team.
My personal opinion, obviously, it's very subjective. I look at it as before we used to use the calculator, and now we have formulas already injected in the spreadsheet. So for me, it's the same, because if you don't know what exactly you want to get as a result, there is no point of the formula will not help you. It's just a tool. Yes.
But
I think he has a follow-up for you.
no, actually, I was going to ask you,
Okay.
since we talked about team, and you are building your team, like what do you watch out for? And let's ask our VCs, what do they look for in the team? Like, do they need to have an AI person these days or not?
I hope we don't need an AI person because we don't have one.
Yet.
Just get a bunch of partners. Obviously, team is king, right? I've been in the startup world since I was 18 years old. It's my life. This is the #1 principle. It's all about team. But when you're in the world for a while, you build relationships, and the relationships build on themselves. So I would not put myself in a situation where I'm like searching for co-founders or asking a VC fund to pair me with a co-founder. I know that works often. I'm a guy who's relationship focused, BD focused, so I would just not do that. And I think there's plenty of very, very talented people out there. AI is so hot right now. Everyone wants to fund AI stuff. Oh, found, I wanted to say, but also fund. So yeah, it is about selecting the right people, the right skill sets. I believe the best foundation for a startup is to bring in product people and business people and build from there. From my experience, often it ended up being not the best way to start when startups, like product-focused startups, for end users, were created by overly technical people and focused just on engineering for too long, because then the go-to-market phase is super hard. Maybe that's just because I'm more on the business side, but I would prefer to build through continuous market validation.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree on that. Just on because you asked about the team, if there is if they need an AI person, definitely need a quality control, and I think this should be part of the operations processes. And this is where the team should come together and see how they optimize internal processes and make sure that they have this layer of the quality control. Because if we're not talking of the small teams, but the large teams would have it just recently joined juniors, for instance, somebody should be able to control whatever they are getting as a result, because there is a lot of still mislead, right? Or somebody should control how we train the models, what kind of assets we fit to the models. So I'm not sure it's a full-time job, but there should be a QA in place for that processes.
Yeah, one of the things I worked at a couple of VCs, and it's always also about flexibility, I feel like, because I know a lot of companies, they'll start with one idea, but then going along in the journey, they'll talk to their customers and find out, oh, this is not what they really need help with. They need help with this reason. And then they go ahead and be able to shift to those kind of things. And having good partners that will allow you to have that flexibility with your VC partners, and having the funding to do that helps a lot as well, because it's always about, when you're bringing up a new product, it's always about what's the thing that is annoying that you're trying to fix. So, oh, it's really annoying that I have to make all these assets. Oh, but this one will let me do it for me in a few minutes. Or this one, oh, it takes too long. Oh, well, then we can make it done in 5 minutes. So it's always about finding out exactly what's going to be that thing that customers are going to say, oh, I need to buy that, and that's going to really help my company out. And I think finding, like with yours, you're getting in that starting point. You're trying to figure out, okay, what exactly are we going to fix? And with education, it's always about what are the issues that kids are going to be having, and then setting things up from that. So I think those companies that have a lot of those kind of are flexible and have a really, and team is, yeah, 100%. I have to 100% agree. Team is we've seen so many great companies come out because of a duo of people or a trio of people that really know what they're doing, are able to make something amazing. And so it's always about the team. And so if you have a really good team, that's already a good start.
Maybe I can add as well on this point that it's very important as well to maybe make a step back and ask yourself as a founder, like, is it really a startup? Is it actually venture? Or it's just a business? Because there are some, like, working back with many accelerators, what I saw, there was so many applications and pitch decks from the startups, which are actually, I wouldn't call it the startup because they use the ChatGPT in order to, they basically connected it with a WhatsApp API. Now it's a smart bot. This is not, for me, I'm sorry, for me it's not a radical innovation. It's not startup because you can start earning money from now. You don't need this investment to scale up. Maybe later on, once you show the traction, once you will be able to prove what exactly you need, like what's going to be the R&D behind why you need this investment. So the world changed a lot, especially the fundraising changed a lot. The fundraising landscape changed in last year. Unfortunately, some of the founders are still having this model of, okay, we need to go through the fundraise. We will, instead of trying to prove the value of the product and bring it to the market. And I totally agree with you. It's like, as soon as you test it, as soon as you see that the people can actually want to pay for it, or the businesses want to pay for it, I don't think you can even call yourself, you're either business, SMB business, or you're the startup.
So, what kind of startups are you interested in? Like, who would you like to see to come and contact you after the panel, ideally, or like generally for all of you actually? You can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So for gaming activation, everything which can help gaming ecosystem grow, and I'm talking about studios. I'm talking about the products, mobile, PC, console. Technology, SaaS, monetization, creatives, analytics, everything. Because for us, we're focusing on creating within the ecosystem, basically, for this to operate. So from the SaaS perspective, I would say billing solutions, creative solutions, and data. That's very interesting. And always super founders, regardless of that, because there are so many solutions now are needed still in gaming world, and we are like our main focus is gaming. So, yeah.
For you?
In our case, unfortunately, I said we don't do gaming directly, but we would do anything that's like SaaS or fintech, surrounding the gaming ecosystem. So, and I think we are very prominently known to be a fintech investor. So anyone who's trying to do something interesting about kind of the monetization side of things, that's interesting. Not for this audience maybe, but we've been passionate about health, IT. So there's a lot of AI happening there as well. So you might know in like diagnosis and also on the data side of things. And stage-wise, we would generally look at traction already. So like $1 million ARR plus is where we typically come in.
Anyone can come and talk to me, of course. But as for the investment, we would also look for traction. And I think we would mostly look for some complementary founders in the team, if not one super founder doing everything. And also probably we would want to see a little bit competitive edge, as I said, competitive advantage that would create the defensibility around the product. And if it's also AI based, we really need to understand the use cases, and we really need to see the clear product market fit. I think that's
I
what I
believe you also have an early stage fund now.
We just started an early stage fund in Turkey, investing. It's just investing in Turkish companies, investing up to $500,000. It can invest in companies without any traction, but also they need to see some also use cases as well. I think they have different GP and different structure, but obviously, of course, I can connect them with anyone. They also, and as we look at everything, gaming is not the strongest area, but we wanna partner with some maybe ex-founders who exit their business as gaming advisors. So I think that's at least reinforcing our advantage in that area. Other than that, as I said, we have a framework to at least look at.
If you guys can make a holodeck like they have in Star Trek, I'd love to talk to you. I think that would be awesome. I would love my own personal holodeck to do whatever I wanted. But I think none of us are there yet. That's probably 20th generation AI. So for now, I think for us, it's all about either improving asset creation as for the game developers as we're trying to work with them, and also improving code. We find that there's a lot of issues that a lot of developers have, not only with developing their code, but also implementing it and also making it easier for and faster. Because there's a lot of developers, finding one developer who knows how to make really clean code that's very fast and efficient is like a diamond in the rough. So having AI helping you, we've been working a lot with looking at GitHub Copilot and some other companies that are doing code revisions and improving code. And I think that's one thing that we're very interested in looking at and working on for our future of our game engine.
And at which stage they should talk to you?
We would I would probably get something where they have some kind of example they can show us. I think with a lot of Chinese companies, they're very risk adverse, so they want to have some kind of item that they can see and they can feel. And I think that's one of the only things I worry about with like a lot of these companies, AI companies. I'm hoping we don't go back into like the boom days of like 2008 or the other ones where they say, hey, I've got an idea. It's a really good AI. And they're like, oh, how much? How much do you want me to give you? So I don't want to have that kind of, because we did that and we had a big issue in '99 when that happened, and then we didn't learn our lesson and we had it again happen in the 2000s. And so I'm a little with how things have gone with blockchain, especially with a lot of the issues that it has. I'm hoping that we've learned our lesson and we're a little bit more proactive in AI research, like what you've said, it's like having like some really good examples of people that should be working in with your company. I think those are things that are really going to show us that you're very serious and that you have the proper things. And I think that's going to be where we'll see the changes, I think, in the next 2 or 3 years, right?
That's all? Okay. And I'm going to ask actually just a little bit more on this because, as I said, there are startups that are interested, and we can see there's a wide range of investors here. If you have 1 million ARR, you can go to Berkin. If the earlier stage, we have options. Any other advice on how to be like fully prepared, or like should they wait until? At which point, how ready should they be before you contact you? Would you penalize someone if you like the team, you like the founders, but maybe they haven't thought of something, maybe the business model, or like how open are you to? Do you give them one chance or build more like a relationship?
I love what you said, the last thing. I just wanted to call it out. It's all about relationship, right? And it's two sides. It's like it takes two to play this tango. So I'm not really a big fan of startups asking, like this model of startups asking for money from investors. I think because it's a business together, it's success together, it's potentially pivoting together. We as a fund or ecosystem builder, we are here to support, to create these unique things, new disruptive things. And we are here to support founders. So I would love to flip it around. So just answering the question when, as early as possible, I think my best advice, which I saw over the years, is that keeping people updated and because it's as an early stage startup, as a founder, it's very hard to balance out internal operations, product creation, development, the fundraising, partnership relationship, and social media and all of that. But it is important, and especially important to talk about yourself and share externally, share on LinkedIn, share what you're doing, because it allows to kind of, it accumulates in people's minds. So if somebody who is not interested and tells you they're not interested in you today, unfortunately not every fund are able to tell you this directly. You will hear a lot of excuses which are not related to the founders. It's actually because the fund cannot deploy right now. The fund has different reason for that. And this is very unfortunate because the startups are thinking something wrong is with them. So I would love this to discontinue, I would say, in the industry. I think we as a funds, we need to be transparent and strong enough in order to communicate if we are, obviously there are some internal reasons why some funds are not doing this, but I think it should be very fair play of we are interested in you, but we are not ready to or we are interested in you, you are not ready. This is what is lacking. Let's look at you over the time. So on our side, as early as possible, and then maybe finding the balance of not over pushing, but keeping the relationship, keeping the communication flowing, maybe the updates. Some of the founders are updating they have a Notion page and they open the access and they just update us on Notion. So some of the founders are just created the Telegram or WhatsApp group and sends updates there. And it's not only updates, ask for help as well. Sometimes I can't, maybe I will not invest in you right now, but I can open so many doors to you, which will help you to get to the stage. So I guess that's on my side, yeah.
Yeah, I'll really just support you, as early as possible. Just meet, get into the radar, because that's a practice I place a lot of importance on. Every company we meet is in our CRM because that's our job as well, right? So just like a sales organization, we are constantly keeping tabs on who's out there, especially being not a seed investor but a kind of a Series A investor. So meet us. We'll tell you, and then I'm giving our internal kind of process, but we'll put you on a 3 or 6 or 12 month kind of check-in watch list, and we'll make sure to kind of reach out to you again, get updates. I agree with Kristina. Build a investor kind of newsletter group, and send out. I know some founders are very kind of not secretive, but cautious about sharing much. But just do a monthly, if you don't want to do monthly, a quarterly update on what's new with your business. Don't make it just words, but with some KPIs, because people read it. So it's not because we're lazy, but starting conversation comes with a responsibility. So sometimes the investor is better when he's passive, just receiving information, because they're constantly processing. Most of my VC friends do the same. So they will know, if App Now sends a newsletter every couple of months, we will know, right? So we'll keep track of it, and UAhero.
And I would like to add, just before giving it to you, the ones that you want to stay in touch with, read it. The ones that don't even read it, you probably don't want them anyway. If they're not interested.
Depends how you understand if you need it or not. I think this is because you might think the fund, you don't need a fund, for instance, but I would definitely suggest checking the portfolio. And this is another topic, like when you're talking to the fund, it's very important to understand what is the background of the person you're talking to. Is it somebody who were in the investment all their life, or it's another startup founder who moved into the investment side of the business, right? So there is so many opportunities with funds, not just money. And I see it's not being utilized.
What I meant is, if you, we already met everyone here, and if you send them and somebody already knows you, and you send a newsletter and they are not interested in reading your newsletter, that's fine. It's not a negative. It's just neutral. I don't see it as a bad thing. Somebody didn't read it.
Right. Well, yeah. One of the best things I've heard from a venture capital when I first came into the game industry was, don't talk to me, because I'm just going to take some of your money when you go IPO. And so they were saying and so his idea was that do what you need to do. And, it's good to talk with the VCs. I know I'm probably going to make bad enemies with you guys now saying that. But, it's just that sometimes you don't need the VCs. Sometimes you're able to do as much as you can. You might need the VCs for advice because they know exactly where a startup should go. But if you don't need the investment, just keep working. Because, some of them, they don't need the investment and they can go ahead and get through it. But I think but when there is an opportunity, if you're growing really fast, you will need that VC investment that you're going to need for the kind of growth. So it's good to be in touch with them and talk to them and make sure it works, but and make sure they, like you said, make them sure they know what you're doing, but don't expect to just come up to them for investment, because at times you may not even need investment. You just might just need advice. And these guys are always, they're working with so many companies. They know all the pitfalls that I think a lot of companies miss.
We also love talking to startups and brainstorm. And as an example for this, in the last 2 years, I think we made 2 investments after seeing the newsletters of the companies. We have started talking with them 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and we have seen their growth. Even Insider, I think we did that. My team met them in first 2012, and then we ended up investing in 2016. In 4 years, they changed the product, iterated, pivoted, etc. So, don't hesitate to contact these investors, update them, let them know, also brainstorm. So I think these investors are.
And I think Kristina mentioned this. Sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead. I'll do the startup perspective at the end.
Yeah, but I mean, nothing is static in the startup's life, also in the VC's life, right? So we have our cycles. So sometimes we will be fundraising, so we will not have enough to deploy, so we will be more selective. And between the funds, our strategy changes as well. So like now we're designing Fund 3, and we'll probably have a seed pocket, like, something that we haven't done before. So things change. So, a couple of years from now, I might be saying completely different kind of criteria set that we are investing with. Not maybe in a couple of months, but in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think before we move to startup perspective, I'll give half fund, half startup, because as the founder as well, I went through fundraising myself as well. So some of the things which works for the community of the startups as well, let's say in Middle East, founders are very connected, and this is what I suggest doing. It's like run your due diligence about the fund, talk to another founders who raised from the fund, because if you talk to the funds and look at the deals they closed and where the leads came from, the lead sources, there are a high percentage of those leads came from the introductions. So through the introductions, you get to know, is this actually right partner to you? Because again, this is a long-term relationship. It's at least few years relationships, and you need the fund, whatever person going to be with you there, to support you, not to block you. And this is very tricky to choose, because you're kind of sometimes in desperate position, but then you need to find the right part in the same time. In some regions, newspapers doesn't really work because of how people busy are. They're not reading them. It's just if you switch on the empathy, you understand that those people overbooked and they're busy. They might just missing it. So in this, as a second kind of a plan B, I definitely would suggest the being more appearing more on LinkedIn and just sharing the progress or asking for help.
So last 2 minutes left. So it will be almost the last word. Oh.
Yeah, basically, from the startup perspective, specifically from our journey with ZEBEDEE, I can just validate what everyone's saying. It's about money, it's also about connections. Yes. Also, VCs are not the only form of investor. At ZEBEDEE, we closed all our rounds. We closed the Series B last year and started with pre-seed. All of that was closed very easily. We always had no trouble getting a fund to lead the round, but at every point, we reserved some of the allocation for angels, and made sure to bring in high-quality angel investors from the industries we wanted to tackle. So that was gaming and fintech. And then also sometimes it just makes sense to bring in a large name from the industry. For our Series B, we brought in Square Enix for a super small check. It was inconsequential in the round. To be honest, Square Enix didn't really help us much as an advisor, but the amount of doors it opened for us to be able to say, oh, we got invested in by Square Enix, and get a VentureBeat article where it says gaming fintech ZEBEDEE raises a round also with Square Enix. It seems trivial, but it can really help. So it is about selecting who you want to be part of this, because your investors are all kind of part of your team. It's also part of the core of the company, because they're the people who give you trust, they give you advice, they open doors, and yes, they also give you money.
Or I guess, to finish, like I forgot to say this, but both Revo and 212. We met in 2018, and they haven't invested in our company, but we became friends, and since then we meet like regularly. It's about like unquantifiable, I would say, relationships. And thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
And so I think that's the end.
Yeah. Thank you very much.